now we are going to take you to a live news conference in Elkhart. Police there investigating a shooting. This happened early this morning, and right now we know State Police and Elkhart Police holding a press conference as we speak. We're going to go there right now live.
Fired. When they got to the 1800 block of DeCamp, they engaged in a. They fired their weapons at a vehicle. That vehicle ended up crashing in the 1800 block. There is one person that is deceased that was in that vehicle. There is a second person that was in that vehicle that was injured. It's unknown where the injuries occurred at, if it was from the officers or previous. While they were investigating that, they found a third victim who had been shot in the 1800 block of DeCamp. That person was taken to Elkhart General for their injuries. During this time, a fourth person showed up at Elkhart General who had gunshot injuries also. At this time, all I know is that we were involved in the shooting that had the vehicle involved. We don't know who shot the other two people at this point. It's under investigation. We have called Indiana State Police in to do the investigation since a Elkhart officer was involved in this shooting. No officers were injured, and we'll investigate this until we figure out exactly everything that has happened here.
So, one person dead.
One person is deceased. 3 other people are injured with gunshot injuries.
Do you know the condition of any of the injured?
I don't. I have not made it over to EGH. I don't believe anything else was life-threatening, was the word I got in the initial.
What time did this start?
3:39 a.m. is when the officers were at the burglary report, and it happened within minutes of that.
So you said the officers were originally investigating a burglary.
Yes, sir.
On Capitol.
Yes.
And then is DeCamp the next block over?
It is within 100 feet of the intersection there to the west. Okay, so they're in the 500 block of Capitol. Within 100 foot is the DeCamp where it runs north and south.
And officers heard gunfire.
Yes.
They went over to the scene.
They ran to the scene from Capitol to DeCamp, which was just like going through the backyard, and that's where they ended up being engaged in a gunfight with their car, with the vehicle.
So the gunfire was coming from the car.
I can't say that.
Okay.
I can't say that. They didn't see that. They heard the gunfire. They ran to the scene, and then they were involved in the shooting. And then everything else is under investigation until we figure this thing out.
Were the 4 people, the 1 person that's dead and 3 people injured, were they all in the car, or were?
No, there were only 2 people in the car.
And where were the other 2 people in proximity?
One of the victims was found in front of 1800 DeCamp, 1807 DeCamp. The 4th victim that showed up at EGH, I do not know where his injuries occurred at. He drove himself or had somebody else drive him to the hospital.
And that was earlier in the evening.
No, that all happened at the same time, to my knowledge. He showed up at the hospital after the shooting at DeCamp.
And so you do not know, of the people who were shot, you don't know who was struck by officer fire or something separate?
The only people that could have been struck by officer fire are the ones that were in the vehicle. The other 2 victims, the one that showed up at EGH and the one who found in front of 1807 DeCamp, were not struck by officers. That's unrelated to our shooting.
Any idea who may have shot?
At this point, I do not.
And that's all Indiana State Police will.
Indiana State Police and our homicide unit will work in conjunction together, but State Police is the lead agency on this.
How many officers fired their weapons?
2.
Are you releasing the name?
I am not. Within 48 hours, I'll get their names out to you. I just want to make sure everybody's been notified.
Any reason to believe the 4 victims are connected? Any idea of that yet?
I don't. I can't answer. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we're in the very beginning stages of this, and you know, like every investigation, we gotta go over this with a fine-tooth comb so we have everything correct. We don't want to put false information out there or bad information.
Is it known yet if there was a burglary happening as originally called for?
The house had been burglarized that they were at. That's unrelated to the shooting, though.
Oh, unrelated.
It appears to be unrelated.
And what was the address of that original? Was that on Capitol?
That was on Capitol. It was in the 500 block. I don't have the exact
That was the
three-digit.
original call.
That was the original call. 500 block of Capitol, burglary. Officers are there. They were actually going around the house trying to figure out where the entry had been made to the house when they heard the shots being fired. And they ran to the scene where the shots were being fired.
But you said right now appears to be unrelated.
Yeah, I have no reason to say that's related. Now, they get into this 6 hours down the road, maybe they'll say that was related, but it didn't appear at the time.
And then forgive me if you explained this already. The person who is deceased, did they die from a gunshot wound or from the car crash?
And what you were listening to was Elkhart Police Chief Ed Winbigler addressing the media after an officer-involved shooting in Elkhart. What we learned from that press conference is police officers just before 4 o'clock, so around 3:39, were investigating a report of a burglary in the 500 block of Capitol Boulevard in Elkhart. While they were investigating that, they heard gunshots about a block away. The officers ran to that area and encountered a vehicle. They exchanged gunfire with the people in that vehicle. Ed Winbigler, the police chief there in Elkhart, said in the press conference that that resulted in the death of one person in that vehicle. A second person was injured. Now, while they were investigating that officer-involved shooting, they found a third person shot in the area of DeCamp. It's unclear how that person is related to all of this. And also during that investigation, they also found a fourth person who showed up at the hospital with injuries. So what we know is that 4 people were involved in some sort of shooting. 2 people were involved in a vehicle gunfire exchange with police. 1 person dead from that. 3 other people injured in this whole incident happening, of course, in Elkhart. The chief says they've brought in the state police to investigate because there were Elkhart police officers involved in this shooting. We know 2 police officers from Elkhart fired their weapons in that vehicle gunfire exchange. We don't know the names of the victims. They haven't released that. Again, 1 person dead in an officer-involved shooting. That person, the name has not been released. A second person injured in that. Meanwhile, they're investigating that. 2 other people are found with some sort of gunshot wounds. We're continuing to follow this story. We'll bring you more throughout our newscast. Stay with us. We're going to go to break now.